Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Holler Board Games. I'm Dave, and today we're going to be talking about budget board games. So, these are some board games that will not break the bank. Now, there's a certain element of sticker shock that comes along with this hobby, especially when you're first getting into it, and especially if you veered over onto the crowdfunding side of things on Kickstarter and GameFound, and you see games going for $100, $200, $300, $400. Maybe that's just way more than you want to spend on a game, or maybe you're just looking to dip your toes in, and that is way, way, way too much for you to just get introduced to this hobby. So what I'm going to be trying to do today is give you some games that are really, really, really good and they won't break the bank. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to be using Board Game Geek's ranking and rating system. I'm going to be telling you what every game is rated on Board Game Geek, and I'm going to be telling you where it ranks. Now, the most expensive game on this list will be about $60, and when I'm giving you those rankings, keep in mind that Board Game Geek is currently ranking 27,066 games. So whatever number that I give you, that is out of 27,066 games. I think you'll see that a lot of these games are ranked very, very highly, and I hope that I'm going to try to cover a broad amount of subjects and game types. I'm going to try not to repeat too many of the same settings of games. So I hope that there's something in here for everyone whenever everything gets over and done with. Guys, if you like this content, please like and subscribe below. But let's go ahead and get over and start on the list of games. All right, first up on the list is Earth. Earth is a beautiful nature-themed game where you are essentially making an island out of cards. You are planting plants and terrain on your island, and you are scoring based on the various ecosystems of the island, the various animals that are on the island, and there's no downtime in this game. Every time someone takes a turn, everyone else at the table also has an action they can do, which makes it really quick, really snappy to play. We recently reviewed Earth here on the channel. If you'd like to check that out, I'll have it linked below. Earth is ranked at a 7.7 on Board Game Geek, so it's a very good rating, and it's coming in at 192 overall, which is very, very, very high. And Earth will cost you about $50 for the base box, so certainly very affordable, very high ranked. If you're into nature themes, I think you will love Earth. Definitely check it out, and if you want it, go pick up Earth. All right. Next on the list, we have Chronicles of Crime. Chronicles of Crime is for anyone who is into NCIS or any of those crime shows, those crime documentaries that you see on TV. It's an app-based game, so there is going to be a digital element to this one. But essentially what you're going to have is you're going to have locations and people out on the board, and you're going to be scanning QR codes that will direct you to the app so that you can interview those people, so that you can explore those locations. Maybe you've found the scene of a crime and you're going to scan that location. It's going to pop up the scene of the crime on your phone. You're going to look at it. You're going to be calling out what you see. So I see some newspapers, I see some blood, and the people that you're playing with are going to be taking a deck of cards, and they're going to be finding those things. If you say blood, they're going to find blood, and they're going to put it on the board. If you say, I see some unopened letters, they're going to find mail, and they're going to put it on the board, right? And so once after you get everything out, then you can go and you can scan the blood, and you can scan the person you want to ask about the blood, and you can ask questions about the crime scene and things like that. It's very intuitive the way that it's done. I'm a huge fan of Chronicles of Crime. It's got a 7.6 rating on Board Game Geek, which means it's rated very, very high, and it's 288th overall. Chronicles of Crime comes in at about $40. You can find it for less than that if you get it on sale at somewhere. But Chronicles of Crime is fantastic if you're into that crime theme board game type of deal. I highly recommend Chronicles of Crime. Very, very, very good. Check that out. Next up, we have Lost Ruins of Arnak. Lost Ruins of Arnak is about archaeologists exploring this newly discovered island. There's going to be monsters, there's going to be items that you can collect, there's going to be resources that you can gather while you are visiting the different areas of this island and trying to figure out what's going on. For this one, think Indiana Jones, think Tomb Raider, anything like that. If you're big into that type of stuff, then you're really, really, really going to love Lost Ruins of Arnak. Lost Ruins of Arnak is rated an 8.1 on Board Game Geek, and it's sitting at 28th overall. So this one is ranked very, very, very high, and it comes in at about $60. So if that archaeology, exploration, Indiana Jones type game is something that you think you would be into, very highly recommend Lost Ruins of Arnak. Definitely check that one out. Next up on the list, we have Horizons of Spirit Island. So Horizons of Spirit Island it's based off of a game called Spirit Island, and Horizons of Spirit Island is kind of the light version of that game. It's not quite as in-depth as far as components or options go, but they've done that to keep the price of it very low, and it's a great place to dip your foot into or dip your toes into the water with this type of game. In Spirit Island or Horizons of Spirit Island, you're going to be playing as a spirit, and they're all nature themed. So it can be, you might be playing as water or, wind or fire. They're all going to have some kind of basis of nature theme. And what you're trying to do is stop explorers from colonizing your island. And that is very difficult. This game is very, very, very difficult. It's not one that's easy to win, and it's not one that's easy to just jump into. If this is maybe your first board game, I might suggest avoiding this one and finding something that's a little bit easier on the list. But if you're just looking for a challenge, then I highly recommend Horizons of Spirit Island. It's fantastic. Horizon Spirit Island is rated 8.2 on Board Game Geek, so a very high rating. It's rated 678th overall, which is kind of on the lower side, but I would like to point out that the game that this one is based off of, Spirit Island, is rated at 11th overall on Board Game Geek. And so it's based on a very high game. Horizons of Spirit Island is newer, and it came after Spirit Island is probably the reason why it's lower. But you can find this one for about $30 pretty much anywhere you look. And this one is on the shelves in a lot of places like Target. So keep your eyes open for that if that's something that you're interested in. Very highly recommend Horizons of Spirit Island. All right, next up on the list is Horrified. Horrified is a horror-themed game, obviously, but there's 4 different versions of this one, and the original one is with the old Universal monsters, so Frankenstein, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, things like that. The other versions, there's a version with American monsters, so Mothman, Bigfoot. There's a Greek version, and there's a version called World of Monsters. And essentially what you're going to be doing in Horrified is moving around the map, and you're going to be trying to capture or defeat these monsters in ways that are unique to each of the individual monsters. So for example, if you are playing against Mothman, you might be setting some traps down and trying to capture Mothman. If you're playing against Bigfoot, you might be trying to get photographic evidence of his existence. They're all themed really well. These ones are very, very easy. They're not too scary for kids to play. This could very easily be your first board game that you pick up, and you would be completely fine, especially if you want to play it with your kids. That's something that's really easy to do too. Horrified has a 7.6 rating on Board Game Geek, and it comes in at 206th overall, but it comes in at 39th in the family category. So keep that in mind. If you're looking for a family game, something you can play, Horrified might be great, and it comes in at right around $40. Next up, we have Forgotten Waters. Forgotten Waters is kind of a harder one to explain, but it's a pirate-themed game. And you're going to be playing this one. Everyone that you play with is going to have a different role on the pirate ship. Now, this one is for 3 to 7 players. There's no real reason why you couldn't play this one with 2 people. But keep in mind that at 2 people, it's going to inherently become harder to keep track of everything because someone is going to be doing multiple jobs. As with 3 players, someone is going to be doing multiple jobs. So it gets a little bit, the lower player count you have on this one, the more there is for each person to manage. It doesn't make the game difficult. It just makes it a little bit more difficult to manage. But this one is very, very pirate fantasy. There's a book in the middle where you're going to be putting your characters and you're going to be taking actions. There's also an app that goes along with this one that's going to feed you that story and tells you what happens as you go along. If you're big into pirates, if you're big into that type of thing, Pirates of the Caribbean, anything like that, this one is absolutely going to be for you. It's rated 7.8 on Board Game Geek, and it comes in at 302nd overall. Now, this one you can find for about $60 pretty much anywhere you look, which is a really good price for this game. And I highly recommend Forgotten Waters if you are into pirates or anything of that nature. There is also another version of this game. It's not the pirate theme. It's more of a a fantasy, high fantasy type theme, and it is called Freelancers. So it plays essentially the same way. It's got the app, and it's basically just the same game in a different setting. Everyone has their own roles that they play. So if you are less into the pirate fantasy and more into the high fantasy with, Dungeons and Dragons, things like that, maybe check out Freelancers. That might be more up your alley. So next up, we have Quacks of Quedlinburg. Quacks of Quedlinburg is a game where you are playing as quack doctors, and you're putting ingredients into this cauldron. And if you put the wrong ingredients in, it can blow up in your face and bad things will happen. And it's a very lighthearted, very fun game that's not hard to pick up. This could also be easy for people who are just getting into the hobby or new to board games. I recommend Quacks of Quedlinburg for that. It's rated 7.8 on Board Game Geek, which is a good rating. And it's rated at 67th overall, which is very high. And this one is 8th in the family category. So Quacks of Quedlinburg rated very, very, very high. And this one usually comes in at around $50 for the base box. Next up on the list is going to be a 2-player game, and that is going to be Sky Team. So in Sky Team, you are going to play as a pilot and a co-pilot trying to successfully land a plane by rolling dice and then placing them onto the different parts of the plane. The pilot will have certain jobs, the co-pilot will have certain jobs, and this one comes with several different missions that get harder as you go along. When you start out, you'll just be trying to land the plane. And then as you go on, you'll have things where the plane leaks fuel. You'll have missions where the runway is iced over. You'll have missions that are real time, where you only have exactly 1 minute for each player to place all of their dice when it comes down to it. And so this one escalates and it gets harder and harder and harder. We love Sky Team. We have a review for it on the channel. Once again, I'll link it so you can check that out if you want to know more about it. But Sky Team is a fantastic game for 2 players. It's a little on the more difficult side as far as playing the missions, but it's not too hard to pick up on the rules or anything. This one is ranked at an 8.2 on Board Game Geek, and it comes in at 73 overall. Sky Team, you can find the base box of it for around $30, so it's a very good value there. Next up, we have Marvel United. I'm a big fan of Marvel United. I have way too much Marvel United, but it's essentially a game set in the Marvel universe where you are going to be playing as superheroes, and you're going to be trying to take down a villain. The cards on this one are very simple. You're going to have actions that are just like punch, move, rescue, or a wild symbol that lets you do any one of those 3. You're going to be playing these cards, and every time that you play a card, you can take the action that is on your card and the action on the person's card that was before you. So it's totally cooperative. There is a good amount of strategy and cooperation that happens at this game. The art on this one's really cool. It's done in like a very cartoony style. It's very good for kids. My 10-year-old's played this one. He loves it. Marvel United is ranked at 299 overall and 61 in the family category, and it's setting at a 7.6 rating on Board Game Geek, so very highly rated. If you're into superheroes or the Marvel Universe or anything like that, it would be really good to check this one out. DC United is coming up sometime soon, probably within the next year and a half. There will be a DC version of this out. This is a great beginner board game. I recently did a video of beginner board games. I'll have that linked if you want to check it out. And Marvel United 100% made that list for good beginner board games. Marvel United costs about $35. There are 4 base boxes for Marvel United. So you can get the base Marvel United, which comes with the heroes that everybody knows and loves that you would expect, like Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, things like that. There is an X-Men version that comes with Wolverine, Cyclops. It covers more of the X-Men. And then there's a Spider-Geddon box, which has Spider-Man. And there's a multiverse core box, which dives a little deeper into those lesser-known characters of the Marvel Universe. But generally, no matter what you're into as far as the Marvel Universe goes, there will be something in Marvel United for you. If you get very into this one, there's a ton of expansions that you can buy for it. So I should say this is a fantastic value for the base box that can grow exponentially in how much it costs if you want to keep adding on and adding on and adding on. But for the base box, you're looking at about $35, and it's a great value for what you get in that base box. Next up is a game called Destinies. Destinies is another app-based game, and it kind of works off QR codes. It's made by the same people as Chronicles of Crime. And essentially what happens in Destinies is you are, it's more of an adventure game, more of that high fantasy, medieval fantasy type of setting. You're putting out map tiles, you are gaining items, you're rolling dice, and you're scanning those items to do certain things, like maybe you need a torch here, and you scan the torch, and you're using it. You're doing the same thing with talking to people. You're scanning QR codes on those cards. So it's an app-based game that feeds you that story and kind of sets that setting for you as you go along. I'm a huge fan of Destinies. We've played, there's also several expansions for this ones if you get very deep into it. We've played a lot of Destinies. I have all of Destinies. I love it. This one is a 7.7 rating on Board Game Geek, and it's sitting at 351 overall and 75 in the thematic category. So this one is, the theme on this one is very, very, very strong. It's very thematic. And you can find this one for about $55 for the base box. So once again, a great value if you're into to fantasy or that medieval type setting. Definitely check out Destinies. I think you're going to like it a lot. And next up and last on our list, we have Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. Now, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is a dungeon crawler where you are going through these different levels. It's also a fantasy setting where you are getting, you've got cards that you play, and you'll play, the top half of one card and the bottom half of another card. And that's how you kind of decide what you're doing. There's 4 classes in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. The map is a book that you open up that sometimes you can put them together to make different layouts of different maps. But essentially everything you need is right there in that box to get this really, really, really good dungeon crawling high fantasy experience. Now, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is currently ranked 10th overall and 7 in the thematic category, but this one is based off of a game called Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven is incredibly popular. It's a much, much, much bigger, expanded version of this that, of course, costs a lot more. This is meant to be sort of an introduction into the Gloomhaven universe, and it's wonderful for that. It does a great job at that. I like Jaws of the Lion every bit as much as I like base Gloomhaven, if not a little bit more. And for the difference in price and stuff, you can't beat it. Gloomhaven was ranked number 1 on Board Game Geek for a very, very, very long time. I think it's still ranked number 3 to this day, so it's a super high version. And just having different versions of that, where Gloomhaven can be ranked at 3 and this game can still come in at 10th, shows you how good this version of the game is. This one is rated an 8.4, which is an incredibly high rating, and you can find this one in a ton of places. This is on the shelf at Walmart, it's on the shelf at Target. I've seen this one out and about a lot, and it comes in at about $50. And for what you're getting in that base box, definitely worth the $50 if you are into. I will say this one it's a very difficult game. It's not super easy to learn. It's not super easy to understand. So if you're gonna get into the hobby with this one, be warned that there are a lot of rules. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of little things that are easy to miss in this one. But if you're very familiar with things like Dungeons and Dragons, or you just love that setting, or you've played other games that are kind of in that vein, then I definitely recommend Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. All right, guys. That covers my list of budget board games. I hope that you all found something in there that maybe you didn't know existed, or maybe that it piques your interest and you go out and you get it. All of those games are absolutely fantastic. They're all rated very high. None of them will break the bank or cause you to come too much out of pocket. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the list. As always, if you did, please like and subscribe below. It really helps us out here on the channel. And guys, thank you all for watching another video. We'll see you next time.